finish that up before we start then.
No, it's okay. I got the sound back up. I just had to restart it, basically. So, so yeah,
Okay,
as we were
so
saying, this is
yeah, so
mostly standard.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double check my numbers here because I'm just gonna open up a quick team builder and make sure I get this right, that I'm not telling people wrong things about
Yeah.
actual possible team values.
For the most part, like this is about what you want to start with. Like you have the access to the Minotaur, but I wouldn't start with it because you're actually cutting some pretty valuable stuff to get it.
yeah, I was saving up for that, but now that I see I have enough for the reroll, I decided to get that
Okay, you
since
went
I
ahead and
actually
bought the
kind of
reroll?
like to work with the ball a little bit more.
Okay, you bought the reroll, so you are now 1090. And you had a level up, apparently. Would you introduce a Minotaur eventually? I would, but realistically, this is one of the teams where the big guy is kind of a little more optional, I would say, because you're already playing a team that has four strength guys and a bunch of guys that blitz as if they're four strength guys. So adding an extra big strength guy on the team is you're not really covering up a weakness. But I would still add him just because the mutation access is really nice and you can do some really pretty obnoxious stuff with a Chaos Minotaur, like get tentacles on him, which is pretty annoying.
Okay, so
Prehensile
yes,
tail, bunch of
can
horrible stuff.
confirm
Okay.
you can in fact get 3 rerolls, uh,
3
7
rerolls
Beastmen and 4 Chaos Warriors as
and
the beginning.
and no Appo.
And no Apo, yes. A Chaos team doesn't strictly need the Apo to begin with.
Yeah.
There's actually very few teams I would recommend taking an Apo first up. Simply because if you're not going with the Apo, it's your first choice. Like, it's the very first thing you pick up. And
Right.
the chances of losing a player in that first match permanently are fairly minimal, especially a positional. And if it's only a lineman, And Chaos Warriors, they're too tough to go down for the most part. They're not
Yeah.
worth worrying about.
You say that, and yet you would be surprised at the matches that I've had.
Oh, it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible, but especially in a tournament format where hitting the ground running is everything, winning that first match, that extra reroll with your agility 3 ball handling is probably going to put you in better stead more often than not. But it is acceptable to start with a reroll. When you're looking at putting the Minotaur in, you're looking at cutting both a Chaos Warrior and a reroll. I believe at least to get. Once again, I'll just double check my numbers.
Also, Fake, you have my Demo Bowl team up, not my Mr. Hadwick
Oh.
team up.
Okay. Let's fix that. Okay. So you'll be 1060, but
Yes, you can in fact start with the Minotaur, 3 Chaos Warriors, and the rest Beastmen.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that one's definitely more.
Yeah, I don't see.
Uh,
Chaos Warriors are good enough already.
Yeah, you don't really need the Minotaur. But unlike other teams, the Minotaur, the big guy, he does, even though he brings more of the same to the team, he does it so well. He's actually a good big guy that I wouldn't consider him TV bloat. Introducing him late or just a flat out waste of space in general, like say a troll on an orc team or the Yeti on a Norse team.
Yeah, I was thinking that the Minotaur would be a good choice, especially since I noticed that you could get mutation access with him, which makes him that much more valuable.
Yeah. And that's most of the fun stuff you can do with him is because he has mutation access.
I mean, he's he's beautiful out of the box. I mean, if you've got
Yeah.
mission critical stuff, you've got every piece on the pitch blitzes at strength 4, which is probably going to be more than you need to get the job done. But for everything that doesn't absolutely necessarily need to be done, you've got a strength 6 frenzy mighty blow piece for the blitzing
So,
because of the horns.
I'll show you the team you're going to be playing against. It's going to be Undead. Partially because it's one of the teams you requested, and partially because we thought it might give you some trouble.
Okay.
Just because, and your team is mostly really good all around. I mean, your pieces don't come with any skills, but you've got a lot of pretty good all-arounders. And the problem that we think you're going to run into with Undead is that, and the reason we think it's going to make a good teaching team too, is because at times it's going to feel like I outstrength you because I have these 5-strength mummies wandering around. And at times it's going to feel like I'm outrunning you because I have these 7-strength ghouls. So
And he also has the do block to leverage, so in every facet, he outplays you.
In some, like, all of my pieces in some way or another are a really annoying thing you're going to have to get used to dealing with as chaos, because your stat lines are really great. Everyone has access to mutations, but you're pretty slow, you're fairly strong, and you don't come with any skills. So I've got some guys that are stronger than you, I've got some guys that are faster than you, and I've got some guys with skills. Which is the other reason we decided this would be a good team, because you're going to hopefully learn more facets of the game this way, as opposed to like if I was just playing a team that purely outran you like elves or something.
Okay.
Or 3-win against Camry, who just straight out outskill and outbash you.
Yeah.
Where you're not actually going to... Your positioning you would learn more about positioning there in terms of winning the bash fight, but compensating for a lack of movement is not something you'd have to do, because you're on par with, well, actually your average speed's higher than a Camry team.
And this is a fairly normal Undead starting lineup too. Just in case people were curious, this is the only recommendation BB Tactics has for Undead, and it's a good one.
You can, of course, swap out some skeletons for zombies because they are 40k a piece.
Yeah.
That's purely a preference thing. That I think has been flogged to death on your channel and probably other streams as well.
So, we'll go ahead and get the game started. Let's see. I'm not seeing you online. Or I can't challenge you. So if you're looking at a team, you may have to back out of that.
Okay, I'm back into the profile.
Okay. There we go. So we'll see how many tries it takes for Cyanide to connect us.
I had a heart attack there for a second because I thought it wasn't going to connect.
Oh, we'll see it. Cyanide is probably going to take us 3 or 4 attempts to actually connect. And Cyanide was also having issues before this game started. Like one of their servers went down or something temporarily, and we couldn't connect. Okay. So I've got 90k, I'm just going to take my Bloodweiser babes. Why are Bloodweiser babes extra training anyway?
Maybe they couldn't figure out another category to put it in or something.
I figure.
I would put them under fair play, like the Apo.
Yeah.
That would be my... I mean, sure, it's exploitive. using sex to improve the team performance, but or sex appeal rather. But it's not illegal.
And by the way, I've totally never played Undead before, but I'm sure we can figure it out.
Oh, okay.
I've played
That
enough
makes
other
me
kinds
feel
of
a little
teams. I've played other teams. It shouldn't be a big problem. Undead are pretty solid all around.
Undead play a lot like I want to say humans without the pass. Like if you play running humans rather than passing humans, it's
Okay.
very, very similar.
Yeah, that's full disclosure for you.
They basically, I mean, it's not like humans where everything on the tin, everything does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Like blitz is blitz, ogres bash, catch is catch, and throw is throw. It's not quite the same, but they do pretty much do their jobs there.
Yeah.
In the same way, the ghouls are your ball handlers, the skeletons and the zombies are trash. The zombies.
Yeah, Cyanide just does that while it tries to connect you, usually.
Yeah, whoever loads first gets a disconnect waiting for opponent because
Yeah.
Cyanide can't reconcile that someone's loading slower than the other.
Pretty much.
Well, my computer is held together by duct tape.
Yeah. This is a pretty long load for you, to be sure. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I don't run the Blood Bowl on an SSD, but I've got one that Windows and some important files are on here and there. And I've got just a big terabyte plain old hard drive that everything goes onto. So you are receiving. Gonna go to numbers.
See, in situations like this, I'm never quite sure if I want to put my strong players up in front to try to take out the mummies, or if I just want to put my weak players up in front just to absorb the strength and just kind of use my stronger players to kind of defend my other areas on the side here.
You're close enough to me in strength, I would try and bash me. Maybe Rev has some more input on that, but...
I mean, you've got two options, basically. If you don't knock their mummies down, you're going to have Chaos Warriors tied up with mummies, and then you're basically going to have to try and extract the Chaos Warriors from that, because even if you base up with all four of them, punch with two of them, and then run two away, you've still got two Chaos Warriors standing in place next to mummies who are probably going to stand up next turn. So I would personally take them off the line, and base them up with Beastmen. Then you can attempt vanity dodges later with the Beastmen. As long as the mummies don't move and they don't get near your cage, that's probably an upside. And if you have to throw a Chaos Warrior at them later, then so be it. I prefer the opportunity to, or the option to, choose when to commit my value, like my positionals, and build dedicated linemen in a matchup like this, or rather in a team like this, and especially in a matchup like this early on.
I'm looking right, they seem to be about 75 cents or so I gave.
I totally forgot I was on the offense.
You are on the offense.
Obviously, depending on brand. But Samsung ones seem to be about.
Alright, let's see.
Cents a gig.
So, okay, a pitch invasion. That's a good start. Well, my entire front line went down, so that's going to lessen the ability to learn here.
Yeah.
That's
So,
interesting. Thank you, Cyanide.
well, we'll keep going. Fortunately, the nice thing about the pitch invasion is since you're the one receiving the kickoff and you're going to get a go first, you're going to have the capability to basically choose who you want to tie up my mummies with. Or if you even want to.
Well, I do have another turn for that. That's what I figured. Anyway.
Yeah, not this turn. Next turn.
Now, in a situation like this, as Chaos, your biggest threat at all times on this pitch are the ghouls.
As
Because-
undead?
Well, sorry, as Chaos in the pieces.
Oh,
that are
against
faster
you.
than
Yeah.
Yeah, against you. Your biggest threat are the ghouls. Simply because if Fake plays it right, he can outposition you. I mean, it's MA7 versus MA6, so it's not, like, gutter runner fast, but it is a numerical speed advantage, and he does have dodge, and you have nothing to counter that. So, if at all possible, you want to be hitting ghouls.
Well, he attempted to, but the ghoul did his thing.
Yep.
Let's see what kind of fun we have. Okay.
Decided not to use the reroll there.
Yeah. So I don't have many pieces to work with, so it should go quickly.
The other thing with Chaos, you've really sort of, you want to pick a side, and sort of drive everything to that side, or even pick the center, it doesn't matter, but just as long as everything ends up very quickly in a nice big clump, or all standing next to each other, with, at least on offense, with them Chaos Warriors up the front, where early on no one's got guard, so when everyone's based up and there's no assist because everyone's standing in more than one tackle zone, the Chaos Warriors get 2 dice and they get -2.
Mm-hmm.
That's your biggest advantage right now, those 4 strength 4 pieces, so you want to really try and leverage that.
Well, that's what I ended up with, just putting a million tackle zones on the ball.
Correct.
And that was kind of because it came up as a short kick and you failed to pick it up. I have the pleasure of being able to put a bunch of tackle zones on it. And there's a thunderstorm going on right now.
Probably not.
So, probably not an issue, but if you hear any thunder in the background, just try and imagine it's adding some extra weight to my words when I tell you to do stuff.
Or any screaming.
When I tell you don't dodge into 2 tackle zones and you hear that peal of thunder, just imagine I really mean it.
Where do I want to put him?
And by the way, if people aren't used to the whole Blood Bowl class thing, if anyone has any questions about the game situation or the 2 teams in particular, go ahead and ask them. Really, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them, but I kind of open it up to more general questions in the end once everything's over with. And of course, since you're the one who's trying to learn here, you can feel free to ask questions and we'll help you out.
Well, to get anywhere they want to go, I'm going to have to do a bunch of GFIs.
Yeah, the guys you have over on the other side of the pitch are kind of out of play for a turn at least.
So you're best off not GFIing with them. With Chaos, like any low movement team, the real trick is getting every single point of movement you can. Which basically means rather than grabbing the guy that's closest to the job, look at who's furthest away from the action, who can get there, and you basically shuffle your players across the pitch rather than just like jamming them where they need to go. It's
like find the guy who's farthest from the action that can actually move up in the process of doing it, and use the movement as the excuse to move him up the field, pretty much.
So like marking those 2 skeletons that were down, that beastman that you've just moved, he would have moved over there, the Chaos Warrior would have shuffled over, then the rest of the beastmen would have shuffled over to cover the ball, and the whole pitch walks to what would be your right side.
What are whites good for? They're your block guys and, for the most part, your blitzers.
And they get strength access.
Yeah, so you can easily give them guard and all that good stuff.
Yep, they guard
Mighty Blow
pieces on a Necro team. They're tackle Mighty Blow pieces on an Undead team.
Well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, scatters are like that. That's actually pretty decent for you, though.
I just realized that I should have pushed that skeleton onto the ball the first punch that I made.
Maybe, but you pushed the ghoul onto it and it worked out okay. You could mix it up and give one strong arm, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, they're too valuable at this point. I would, if you wanted to do Parsi with Undead, you'd develop the ghouls and have them do it. Because they're faster, they can run in and make shorter passes. And then just give the passing ghoul strong arm on doubles. I'd probably give him accurate first. Or hell pass. Well, yeah, you give a ghoul short hands, of course, regardless, but if you were looking to develop Parsi Undead, that would be you.
I like sure hands a lot on anything you're going to handle the ball with. Aside from the whole obvious reroll on pickups, it becomes really, really useful later when everyone has strip ball.
Correct. They're both highly underrated skills.
Yeah.
Both short hands and strip ball. I mean, obviously strip ball doesn't short hands, you only get half the benefit until people start taking strip ball.
So that was pretty much just taking 2 die blocks and 1 die blocks with block against a guy who doesn't have it and freeing up the ball. And it's not in the safest place in the world or anything, but I'd prefer I have it than you have it in any case.
So the biggest mistake, I suppose, at this point that you've made is cycling players into the backfield. As Chaos, you have no real recourse for passing. So those players back there are fairly useless. I mean, it's good you're punching a ghoul, but to get a Chaos Warrior and a Beastman out of position before the ball's wrapped up will get you in, or could get you in trouble.
Yeah.
As it has now. So you've got to try and extract those guys and get them back in there and get players in front of him, because he is faster. If he gets that ghoul free, you can't catch him. Well, you can with GFIs if he elects not to, but it's still not pretty. So you've got... I mean, it's a net wash. You've got two skeletons tied up by a Chaos Warrior, and then his ghoul's tying up a Chaos Warrior and a Beastman.
I'd have probably gone ahead and tried to re-roll that. You haven't used any yet.
Well, I figure I want to save them for, like, super necessary stuff.
Getting the ball for me was fairly important.
Hmm.
He is, however, standing next to a Chaos Warrior, and
Yeah.
I would probably have followed that up as well, so you've got two tackle zones on the ball. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
That's unfortunate. You kind of had to do some dodgy stuff, but
Yep.
it failing that early was definitely not the best. That is a 75% chance of working, and it didn't work out, so a little unlucky.
Higher than that.
3 agility with a reroll, 75, right?
No, 2 agility with a reroll, 75.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, 3 agility with a reroll is 88%.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's more like in the...
Yeah.
Yeah, fun fact for the whole class, Agi2 dodging into no tackle zones with a team reroll is not suicidal.
No, not at all.
Not your go-to move, but it's definitely something that's possible. And you shouldn't be
that is
afraid
not
to
good.
do it.
No. Not particularly.
I don't like losing my Chaos Warrior with
Don't
the
apple
first
it,
quarter
though.
of the game.
Yeah, he'll be right.
He'll be fine.
But you see now, here's the problem in that you've got one Chaos Warrior tied up with a mummy and two that have run through into back play on the wrong side of the pitch, and the only one left to really tie the ball up was able to be circled up and punched. At this point, or I suppose at any point in a Chaos team, the Beastman, unless you develop some horror Beastman like plus Agi plus Strength, nasty ones, like I have seen some horrible Beastmen.
Take your GFIs one at a time, by the way, people.
Yeah.
Because if I had to reroll one, I would have stopped taking GFIs. But until then, it's relatively safe.
Basically, the Beastmen do the marking, and the Chaos Warriors you try and keep as free as possible to basically go where needed. So they would stay center of pitch for the most part on offense or defense until you decided where you were going or where they needed to go. Because you are a low movement team, and you need to not get tied up. Even though you want to get stuck in, if that makes sense.
And this is kind of the problematic situation hoping we would get into to kind of show you one of the unfortunate problems of Chaos is I'm very slightly faster than you, and very slightly is pretty much all you need. 1 square faster is a very, very big deal. And that's part of the reason Chaos have some issues at lower TVs. They're monsters at high TVs. But for the most part, trying to stop me is going to involve dodges and GFIs. Still doable, but I like it when you have to do risky stuff to try and stop me.
I can't say I always do the best in this type of situation either.
Well, for the most part, you've got like one thing you can do to try and stop me. I mean, there's one beast man that can get to me.
It's awkward because you've suddenly been thrown on defense here when you were supposed to be on offense,
Yeah.
so you're not set up for it, but there's one thing you can do with any low movement team, and Chaos do it very well because of the horns on the Beastman, that will make your life so much easier, and that's introducing a safety into your game plan.
Go ahead, just finish that.
The concept of a safety is basically an unmarked player, preferably a high movement one or your highest movement one. In this case, it would be a Beastman, who stays back 3 or 4 squares from the action, roughly in the center of the pitch, so it doesn't matter which way they break.
You are ridiculously unfortunate with these dodges, by the way. That should be relatively safe, but
No, that's pretty much how my luck goes every game, so it's cool.
well, don't expect it to go that way because, like I said, those dodges are 88% chance of working, and you've failed 2 of them so far.
You've got, I mean, when you make the mathematically correct decision and it bites you in the ass, especially if it bites you in the ass multiple times, that's pretty
Yeah.
much just luck, unfortunately. But it doesn't mean that you should stop doing that
Yeah.
at any point.
I mean, if you go in a hand of Hold'em with pocket aces and you lose, you didn't make the wrong decision, it just didn't work out. So I'm going to pound for a bit, but I'm not going to stall because I can't teach you anything while I'm stalling. So I'm just going to get my free punches I've got and score real quick. Someone was asking about what's a good player on Chaos to give leader to, if at all. I would suggest most Chaos teams should probably start with 3 rerolls, so it's a little bit less important than it is on some of the other teams. But if you're going to give leader to anything, can Beastman get it on doubles, I think?
Yes.
Oh man,
everyone,
you're killing me.
Yeah. Yeah, I
everyone
am.
has, passing access on doubles.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, put it on a Beastman. Don't waste Chaos Warrior levels on a passing skill.
Correct, not a doubles, not when they've got so many cool things they can take.
Right.
The real shame with the Chaos Warrior is they only get 7 levels. Because there is just so much shit you want to put on them.
Yeah. I'm rolling very well on block dice as well. And I just score now. So we'll
So
get back to the action.
Good time to touch on it. What to do in this situation as Chaos if the Undead decide to stall?
Yeah. Like if this
really-
was a legitimate tournament game, I would have, but we're trying to teach you.
You would look to try and get players, obviously get players free back there to pressure the ghoul, but at the same time, that other ghoul was still in the mix there, relatively unmarked. if you couldn't blitz his ball carrier this turn or any turn, and you can take a player that isn't reasonably going to get back there, punch that ghoul, because if you punch that ghoul, that halves the chances of this happening again, because he's got one less ghoul on the pitch.
Yeah. And I'm just going to go with the same defense again. Very unfortunately, nobody got up from KO for you.
Is okay. You've still got 3 Chaos Warriors, though. If you were down
Yeah.
to 2, it'd be a little bit.
It'd be dicey.
Yeah.
So, like, if we're talking about chaos and you only have a few turns to score, like, we can't mention that as chaos you can pass if it's really needed. It's never your first option. You never ever want to be doing it if you can help it, but you're going to have like 4 turns to score, so it's going to involve either a very, very nice breakthrough or a pass, basically.
Yeah, it's not so do or die at the moment that you have to
Right.
go for the pass. I think at this point a good solid Chaos Warrior spearheaded bash is definitely the way to go, because you've got, looking at the defensive lineup, you've got a white that's all the way over on one side,
Yeah.
who's realistically 2 turns from the action,
Right.
depending on the kick. So I would, whichever side, I mean, you've front loaded your right hand side, so I would get that beastman to the ball in back play, depending on where the kick goes, and then just make sure first of all you secure that ball, and then start driving hard down the right hand side, making sure that ball's secure at all times, and just keep moving forward.
And if it comes to it and you must pass, then you can pass. But until then, don't worry about it too much. Okay, and another pitch invasion.
Because why not?
Okay.
Because why not? And my whites and mummies are down. But your ball carrier, the guy you were planning on carrying the ball with, was down.
This is
That's
interesting.
unfortunate.
Thanks, Cyanide.
Yeah, trying to teach here, and
And pitch invasions keep happening.
yep. Okay, so in this case, that unmarked beastman on the. Well, actually, no. Now would be a good time to switch, wouldn't it? Because
Probably.
yeah.
You've
you
got
can make
one
more
skeleton
grounds on
you
the
can.
left-hand side.
One skeleton to plow through, and then you can, go down a pretty good distance.
So your ball isn't in any danger of being
I mean, my one player that can reach it, like, even with GFIs, is the skeleton in the middle.
So in this case, as we're talking about cycling, that beastman that's...
Oh, you freaking kidding me.
Thanks, Cyanide.
Oh, no.
That was the correct thing to do, but thanks, Cyanide. Alright, well. So no one can get to the ball but that skeleton.
It was perhaps the correct thing to do, maybe in the wrong order.
Possibly.
Once again, movement on Chaos teams, I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, take the stuff that has 0% chance of failing first, and then do the relatively safe stuff.
Yeah, you would cycle that beastman that's standing 1 off the Chaos Warrior on your left-hand side around to cover the skeleton and the mummies. Cycle the Chaos Warriors around to the right-hand side, and then run that furthest beastman back to grab the ball, because there's no other way he can... he'd be relatively safe back there trying to pick the ball up. And then the next turn you'd have another beastman that could stand up with him, and they could start coming up together while you're making progress down the left-hand side of the pitch.
Yeah. Got so few pieces I can actually move, but... Yeah, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do myself now, too. Because I don't want to get myself too deep in your position either. Like, the skeleton's gonna make an attempt at getting the ball, but... Other than that, I may just leave him to his own devices. Yeah, we'll do that. Four plus, 50-50 chance? No, don't re-roll that. So for the most part, because that block failed for you, I got to negate most of the effects of the pitch invasion and make it a little more annoying for you to try and pick up the ball.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Which side now would you think would be a better option for a drive?
I would
Defensively?
go back to the other side, to his right, my left. I would think.
Something. That's correct, because you've got less players on that side now, and you still haven't committed to a side here. In fact, you've got more strength on the right hand side just because of the fact that Chaos Warrior stayed on his ass last turn.
Don't make GFIs at this point, that early in the turn. Because you're out of rerolls, so there's just a straight up 16% chance it just immediately ends your turn. And again, if there are any other questions, go ahead and ask them in chat.
Next to the ball, blitz with the horns, and then...
Yeah,
and
by
then
the
picked
time I
up
thought
with
about that, I had already picked the guy up. So I was thinking,
yeah.
oh, I gotta stand up everybody. Oh, I gotta move everybody now. And then I just totally screwed it up.
Yeah, no, it's something that you learn with low movement teams. It's not... It's a slightly different mindset. Like, I gotta alright, so stand everyone up and then worry about my punches. With a slow team like Chaos or Orcs or Camry, sometimes it's better to leave a player down till you can, because you need him later in the turn to move. It's not something that you learn immediately, it's something that takes time. Just something to consider for later on, because at this point he could have blitzed off with the 4-strength beastman and then picked up with the one that was down and run him up and started making progress down the pitch.
Yeah.
So I've got a million guys to pick up. Okay, so I'm just working on trying to take out some of these pieces in the back, but I'm going to fail to. Because it's my turn to roll a bunch of both downs. But I made sure to do all the stuff that doesn't involve movement first. Or doesn't involve die rolls whatsoever. So I did tons and tons of movement. I'm hoping I can still piece this together for YouTube because the keyboard's messing up and the sound keeps dying on the stream and I have to restart it. And hopefully I'm not spamming people with emails. So since it's turn 7, you have to make sure that some person is in scoring position at the end of this turn somehow.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
No, it's actually very possible. You've got that beastman down there standing between the skeleton, the white, and the ghouls. He can actually blitz through into that skeleton.
Yeah.
And then dodge out if he puts the skeleton down.
Yeah.
I probably get a hold of the ball first before I attempted it.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I wouldn't, because if you drop the ball, if you fail to handle the ball, then you can't get even scoring position.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
So-
yeah.
So, yeah, punch the guy off the ball, and then blitz the beastman through, dodge him through, and then pick the ball up with the beastman and run him somewhere safe.
Just somewhere where I can't get to
Blitz
him.
through where?
Blitz through the skeleton. Blitz into Smothers my skeleton with your Beastman. With Let the
Which
Boogie
number
Loose.
is that?
Blitz with your number 10 into my number 12. And if you get a knockdown, then you have a 1 dodge out and you can get him into scoring position. And then your number 12 Beastman picks up the ball and just goes somewhere safe where I can't touch him, and then you try a pass next turn.
Your number 8 would move over and cover the number 1 and then number 12 would come and stand somewhere nearish for Chaos Warriors.
Oh, that seems kind of weird.
Well,
it's
not go-to, but it's the
It's
only way you
basically
can
the best
score
thing you can
position.
do with 2 turns left.
And then if it comes off as well, because you've just pulled this out of nowhere, and it's not actually mathematically insane, like you've got us at Agi 3 and some Agi 3 dodging into no tackle zones, so they're not really terrible choices, although I'm not sure where that guy's going. Well, I suppose he is in scoring position, isn't he?
He is.
Technically.
That'll fail, but you got your guy into scoring position. Obviously, I'm going to try and knock him down, but he's there and I do have to deal with him.
How do you even salvage a position like this where you're down players and it's like stuff is just being blocked left and right? You really can't move your guys through. I mean, I would have all but thrown up my arms at this point.
It's not a good position, and it's not always winnable. The caveat to that being that just about anything is possible with a 6.
Yeah.
Which is why trying to blitz that Beastman through was the right move, because the only thing that you can't do with the 6 is move beyond your maximum movement. Like, you've got your movement allowance plus the GFIs, and that's it. There's physically no, or barring chain pushing, of course, but you don't have enough pieces up there to chain push. There are limits on ranges of movement and passing, but otherwise, take your best take your best odds and see what comes of it. Like, even right now, you're not actually. It's not impossible for you to score. It's very unlikely, but it's still possible. That also makes it more difficult.
Is Twitch
Your unmarked Beastman, run him down, and have him stand on the opposite side of
well 12 has
have
picked
him
up the
stand.
ball, so there's going to be a
Yep.
pass or handoff now. Is the audio back now? Yeah, I have no idea what's happening, guys. Basically my sound input is going through my keyboard and I'm losing the connection to the keyboard.
This is going to sound ridiculous, but that particular keyboard doesn't have its own power supply, does it?
No, not that I know of. I think it's failing. The connection between the computer and the tower is failing.
Okay, I was
Now,
going to say, I've got...
I have a question.
Hmm?
Should I try to pass it to the Beastman that's got to dodge like 4 times?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're scoring at this point, and...
I mean, maybe take your 2-die block on my white first if you decide you want to do that.
It's against the dodge guy, or a block guy though, right?
It is.
Two
So
die...
it's
2-die.
Against block isn't terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's relatively safe.
number 11 in the end zone.
Oh, I didn't even know I was going through a tackle zone there.
Oh, that's me. Well, okay.
Well, that certainly is a thing.
Well, do it if you're going to try it, and presumably you're going to try it.
Run, Beastman! He blitzes through. He blitzes the number 5 ghoul and runs straight in.
Well, I already used my blitz earlier to take a guy off the ball.
Ah,
Yeah,
right,
he did.
Of course.
Well,
Yeah, see, I would have done that, except he had the skeleton that was on the ball, so it was I had to dodge into a tackle zone and pick up the ball, and I figured that'd be a better place to use the blitz, but I don't know.
Yeah, the stream was down. I didn't actually see you use the blitz.
yeah. I'm having some pretty obnoxious issues with the stream right now, so...
I don't know. What are your thoughts? Should I have used the blitz and not use the blitz in the beginning and had that huge roll to make it the beginning, or
well,
done what I did?
A dodge into one tackle zone and then picking the ball up isn't terrible, as opposed to like dodging into 2, then into 2, then out of 1. I think I would have tried the pickup in the tackle zone, but that's personal. I think the math comes out in my favor by a small margin. I said it's not like you're likely to score there. Under those circumstances, it wasn't pretty. And you were going to be rolling a 6. You were relying on a 6 any which way with no rerolls. So the fact that you got as far as you did was cool.
Well, Chaos